Hey, Studio 108 community, thanks for clicking in. Thanks for following. I'm here with Tom.
Hi.
And Tom and I love to chat about all things,
All
new
things.
ideas, all things.
All things.
The meaning of life,
The
the process of life,
process, the growth, the evolution of life.
and consciousness.
Uh-huh.
Tom's website is Neural Architect. He really dives deep into the neurology, the thought stream, the breath work, the body work, how all of that weaves together to give us an experience in our human, and determines the quality of that experience and the nature of that experience. So yeah, I'm always happy to run into Tom, and I invited him to sit down today because he's going to be doing some somatic breath work at both businesses, both at the Light Wellness Center in the Energy Enhancement System and here at Studio 108. So opportunity is knocking today. Yeah, what do you think? Where do you want to start?
I want to start with what you and I were chatting about right before we started this conversation.
Yeah.
Because I think this is going to tie in so beautifully. But I was quoting my all-time favorite, Japan's #1 samurai, Sashimi Miyamoto. There's 10,000 ways, trails up a mountain, but the view from the summit is always the same. Which is to say, right, like we all gravitate to different practices, different modalities, different things, and we're all walking a very different path. It's a very individual path. And so something that resonates for me and works for me may not be the case, necessarily for someone else. And same is true for you and every other person.
I mean, it's a big mountain.
Yeah, it's a big mountain.
How crazy would it be that there would be only one road up the mountain for all billions of us?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of world would that be? It would be kind of boring and flat, uninteresting, and not really helpful, because I think that one of the things that is so exciting to me is when I bump into people who are walking other paths. Like, there's so much to learn, there's so much to grow from, there's so much to be kind of triggered by, which really spurs me to investigate.
Good. I love that word. Tell me more.
But it's like those people that kind of push your buttons are your teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that, because this is about triggers. In fact, I was just writing a newsletter for this month yesterday, all about this very thing, about how a trigger truly is your greatest teacher, because all it's doing is pointing you directly back in. Something is triggering you, a person, a situation. Well, it's just revealing something that's already present inside of you.
It's a mirror.
It's a mirror.
I think, we want to talk about how I create my reality. I want to talk about like the power I have to create my reality, but it comes with like the responsibility that what I see out there is what I've created, and I'm responsible for that.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting kind of hit in the face, it's just a mirror of what within me is ready to be investigated,
released, or just brought to awareness.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that in and of itself is so healing, is when we can just become conscious of something. Like to also quote my other favorite person, Carl Jung. He said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call that fate. And so that's largely what this work is for me always about. It's like, how do we use all these different things to learn about who we truly are, rediscover who we truly are, because we spend so much of our life doing for others and becoming something we're not, because we operate from this space of lacking self-worth and self-esteem and self-love.
I've got to fix me. I've got to change me. I have to improve me. I have to meet the expectation. They want me to do this. I should be that. Like, all of those things are counterproductive to just learning to love and accept ourselves.
All parts of ourselves.
All parts of ourselves. I saw this little meme. It was two cats, a black cat and a white cat, and they were like snuggled up together. And the black cat said, "I'm the shadow." and I give the light something to lean into. And the light says, I'm the light. And I give the shadow a balance and a clarity and, a place in which to grow. And it's like they're loving on each other. And we kind of miss the boat on that sometimes.
We almost push the shadow to the side, Meanwhile, like, yeah, it's
So hipsic, it's so harmful.
and to like learn to embrace that part of ourselves. And again, of course, it doesn't mean, oh, well, then I get to just go and act in dysfunctional, unconscious ways. It's not at all what's implied. It's like, can I just bring awareness to this part of myself? It's a very real and true experience, because to what you said earlier, it's like I need to take responsibility. But maybe when I was 5 years old, I couldn't take responsibility, and things still happened to me. And people in my life affected that. And so obviously it created certain patterns of behavior in certain ways that really informed my character and the decisions I made, the way I showed up or didn't show up, in life. And so that is a very real thing that I need to love and honor. And either if I notice it coming up nowadays, great. Like I get to just stay present for that, hold space for myself in those moments, because I didn't have someone to hold space then. And so
it's like rewiring, rewriting.
Absolutely.
Kind of reloving. One thing, because Leah and I are kind of close, did you know?
Yes.
Yes, thing. But one thing that we remind each other all the time is that love heals, and shame doesn't heal, and self-denigration doesn't heal anything. Like to bring things into the light and to become aware of them with a sense of compassion for yourself is super sophisticated for a human psyche to do.
Absolutely.
Like you can make all the memes and all the posts and put up all the quotes and drink whatever Kool-Aid you want to drink. Like, and ultimately, like we're alone with ourselves in those moments. And it's a really sophisticated, elevated, mature thing to do, to be able to hold love around those really, really hurt spots.
To give yourself space and time and stillness to do so with, because again, going back to a lot of this work, it's like we spend so much of our lives distracting, numbing, we throw ourselves into our work. I mean, I can't tell you how many people in the healing space are using healing others as a way to avoid dealing with what's going on inside themselves.
I've done that.
We all have.
Busted, yeah.
100%, and I reflect on that too sometimes, because like what initially drove me a lot was, oh, I'm going to gain worth if I'm out there saving the world, helping others, doing all these different things.
Yeah. And I think that's the key right there, because honestly, we can't save anyone else anyway. So when I'm at that, I have to lift these people up. I have to like give them this message, and so that they have better lives. And like that's off track anyway. Like, I've got to do that for myself, and then give them opportunities, an open space for them to kind of find it themselves. So I want to talk about specifics of your breath work, interventions, exercises, practices. Like, tell me what that feels like, what that looks like, what that process is like.
So when I work with the breath specifically, I like to often say there's breathing and then there's breath work, right? So like the breathing we do every single day right now as I'm speaking to you, is it functional or dysfunction? Again, my life experiences are going to inform my physiology, my biochemistry, in the state of my nervous system. So of course, if I'm constantly stressed, upregulated, which we spend 85% of our lives in that state, it's going to develop, very short, shallow breathing patterns, which guess what? Only perpetuate upregulation in the nervous system.
Yeah, so what he means by that is when you're breathing short and shallow, you tend to get more anxious, more excited, more distracted, more dysregulated. Okay, so let's spill it right out on the table and call it what it is. And that's kind of an exciting truth, because it puts the ball back in my court, that I have more agency, control / strategy over regulating myself than I think I do. So I might need to grab a script or drink some relaxing tea or whatever, but there's a first line of defense that I can become skilled at.
Yeah, and breathing is really like one of the only things that we can control that's both an autonomic process. It happens on its own. I never have to think about breathing. If I'm sleeping, I'm breathing nonetheless. The body is constantly doing it, right? But it's something we can have direct agency and control over as well. And we can repattern ourselves into breathing in healthier ways, right? Which then translates into what? A more balanced nervous system. I'm more calm, I'm more grounded. I can be upregulated if I need to. There's a car coming down and I need to get out of the way. Great. Like I need to be able to do, but I also need to be able to bring myself back down always, And so that's one component.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's breath work, and it's using the breath in very specific and intentional ways, to induce different states, to create certain environments internally for certain other work to be done, And so, of course, a lot of people are familiar with just like breathing to bring ourselves down and down regulate, calm ourselves, And then there's thousands of different techniques, thousands, There's different like ratios of the inhale to the exhale, through the nose, through the mouth, like in, out, all these different ways, one nostril, two nostrils, like it's
endless.
So many things you can do with it. And there's also very core basic things that one can understand about breath. It's like when I inhale, that's immediate sympathetic activation, right? When I exhale, that's immediate downregulation. There's different ways to play that.
Your heart rate variability that comes up and down, it's really interesting to see the graphs. When you start looking at coherence and bringing the body into heart rate, respiration, emotional coherence, where all three of those elements are kind of working in sync with each other in a way that is balanced and harmonious. Like you can see the little lines going up and down to each breath right there on a screen. Like it's undeniable. It's right there for your eyes to see.
Not only that, but your brainwave patterns change with all these different techniques and modalities. Your physical chemistry is also changing.
Yeah, your blood chemistry, your the amount of hormones, the function of your immune system, your digestive system, like
all of it is impacted because your breath is directly impacting your nervous system. Your nervous system governs every other system in the body. Your endocrine, cardiovascular, all of those different systems are impacted by that. And so, of course, there's that component. It's like restoring proper breathing practices and patterns, and that's like one part of it.
I want to mention this too before we go any further, and it's sort of like an aside, but one of the interesting things for me in terms of like being a yoga teacher and doing privates with folks, because folks will make an appointment because their back hurts, their shoulders hurt, like they'll make an appointment for private yoga because of these aches and pains they're having. And they're often quite surprised when I start them like laying on the back with the legs in a box, hands on the belly, like breath dysregulation can cause things like misalignment in the neck, leading to migraines, low back pain, leading to lack of mobility, and changes of lifestyle because you just can't move. Like it's a thing. It's a real thing through the whole system. Okay, go back to the neurochemistry.
Neck, traps, right? These are all innervated by cranial muscles, cranial nerves here, not so much the spinal nerves. So this is why you can also sometimes go to a massage therapist and they can work on your body and you'll still feel tension in your neck and your traps because you need to work with the cranial muscles, and particularly here, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, one of which is the vagus nerve, which we all love talking about. Relaxing that actually, again, is induced oftentimes with breathing practices, and it will relax all of these muscles. Now, if my body is tense, guess what? That also amplifies the pain response in the body. We feel more pain when we're feeling tense. The more I can get myself to relax, the more things can loosen out, the less pain that also translates into.
And back to my yogi friends who might be like me, a little hypermobile, who really love yoga because we can get into all these back bends and binds, like so hypermobile. If you saw like pictures of me, like it might be even 15 years from ago by at this point, but it's like I couldn't even do that back bend today. And one of the reasons is is that I enjoyed that hypermobility for as long as I could. But what it did is it created a lack of structure and safety, that the joints were so loose and the ligaments so open. And my nervous system is like in this kind of triggered on agitated state that I don't have a strong structure, safe structure.
Mhm.
And then there I am, like breathing shallow, like all the things that I'm doing, like yoga is supposed to help me, all of that is like heading me all of a sudden in the wrong direction, down the wrong cascade. So if any of this feels or sounds familiar to you, keep listening. Go ahead, back to you.
And so what you're pointing to is also self-awareness, which is the most important part of this conversation. Because again, there's a lot of things that we can be conscious of, but there's so much more that we're unconscious of. And this kind of ties into, you know, some of the other breathing practices that I work with, like the somatic breath work, which is really there to bring up to the surface all that conscious and unconscious, suppressed and repressed material.
Tell me this, like, we hear the word somatic a lot. Define it.
Yeah.
Just throw a little definition.
Sure. Somatic, you can almost just distill down into body-based. Somatic practices are body-based practices. Breath work is somatic work, you know, and somatic release happens when we are able to tap into very physical areas in the body where emotions are stored, trauma is stored. Again, that's why it's called somatic breath work, where we're breathing in a way that starts to almost induce this like trauma-like response in the body for the purpose of dislodging all of that stored content, which the body
Stored
holds
content.
Yeah.
Which I sometimes interact with my body as a story or as an informative communication. Like I feel that muscle, it's really close to the bone, it's super small, and I feel it, and I'm like, what are you trying to say?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Just like, so sometimes when I hear traumas and things like that, I'm like, I don't have any traumas. I've worked on all my traumas. I know all my traumas, I'm good. But it's like your body is always talking to you, always. And unless you're like super elevated and like levitating with the elevation of your consciousness, you're here in a human form with experiences that are contained in your form, and you've got stories and your body is going to be talking to you. So I can think to myself, oh, there's nothing going on until I'm like with Tom in a breathwork practice and everything is like, you know, the sheet is pulled off and I'm looking at like what really is going on under the surface.
For me, like the breath is, it's a tool, again, a path towards self-mastery, because it can be used both in this way of kind of cleaning house, where we can just like really clear away all of this stored content that is operating in the background, again, unconsciously, right? But then learning how to really master breath for yourself, well, then you kind of stay up to date, because even in the moment of feeling triggered, okay, wow, can I ground myself? Can I just like allow myself to be experiencing the experience I'm having? Can I allow these emotions to be moving through me in the way they're moving? Can I allow this to inform me now? Can I, that way we're not running, we're not distracting. Oh, this doesn't feel good. You know, I'm just gonna not address this right now because it doesn't feel good. Because we're always running from our emotions, right?
I think of is like how many of my, I'm just gonna speak about me because otherwise I'm projecting anyway. Like how many of my personality habits, like the way I would respond to someone or the way I would judge something, comes from the challenge of being with my own inner experience during a conversation, working together on a project, like driving my car, like we're never without some sort of a connection to another when something isn't coming revealed.
Well, you said it at the very start of this conversation. It's like, it's only in connection to others that we get triggers. Like when you were describing, like, oh, meeting new people and like, oh, that's different. Like it triggers something in me. And I need to look at that and I need to address that. Because you can go into a cave and meditate and be untriggered because you're not in relation to other people.
100%.
This is how we grow and this is how we evolve, also collectively, right?
Yeah, and it's a big task right now.
Yeah.
It's a big task. Like thousands of years ago, if you wanted to have spiritual growth, you would go into the cave and you sequester yourself. And that was considered really mastery. But now we're all back. They call us householders, and we're expected to like hold down a job and raise kids and have relationships and somehow also like go through this. And I think like for Tom and I, we really enjoy these conversations and we really enjoy exploration, and we are here to have a personal experience of evolution.
Mhm.
And maybe you're thinking, yeah, well, I that's not me. That's not me. And true. Okay, yes. But also like these are strategies for when life is hard,
Yeah.
when life is confusing, when I want certain things and nothing seems to be going my way. Somehow there's a block between me and what I would like to have for me.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, this is the way.
This is the way.
This is a really good path up the mountain. Sorry.
It's the path of staying present. It's the path of accepting things as they are in this moment without, again, fighting them, resisting them, judging them, right? And to then just continue to navigate that as best you can, and if things come up, great, like you get to just honor that, because maybe there's a 5-year-old Tracy and they're still saying like, hey, look at me, like let me have my tantrum right now, like let me do it, stop trying to shut me down, and that's a very real thing, and you get to love that part of yourself, and going back to embracing the light and the shadow, but then we don't want to go out there into a world and act unconsciously by then projecting that onto others. And that's where it's important to like, can I come back to center? Can I come back to stillness? Can I recognize and allow this experience? And can I allow it to move through me before I take action? And that's the mastery right there. Self-awareness, and then just being able to really act with intention and not unconsciously. We just more often than not are going to go out there and start harming others with our words and our triggers and these things that we don't.
And blaming and pointing fingers and shaming others and judging others. And it's just such the way the human struggles to stay safe, We're just struggling to stay safe. But
safety, that is the key word.
So, but I know like when I was going through my divorce, it was like, every moment seemed to contain a trigger. And I would say, I'm not responding to that until I take it to my mat. I'd go to my yoga mat and I'd practice. And somehow in that hour, 75 minutes, whatever it was, some little aha would happen. And I'd realize where I had responsibility and control, how, yes, this was happening and it was coming from the direction of that person, but it was about me being with me. And then there would still be an answer to them, but it would be much more informed. And I don't know.
And neutral too.
Yeah, sometimes neutral, or at least not embarrassing. Not right. Like, oh my God, I didn't meet their crazy with my own crazy, right? And that's something to really be proud of. And what happens is once you start understanding it and unpacking it that way, you do make progress up the mountain. And you can like look back and say, oh my gosh, look how far I've come.
Yeah.
Like, look how far I've come. I'm a little less cray-cray. Yeah, I'm making my way.
We're all human. And I think that's the beauty also of being able to really be now more than ever before in community, because I believe it was Thich Nhat Hanh, who said that the guru of the future is the Sangha, the group, the community.
Yes.
Meaning we're all here to also be each other's missing puzzle pieces, so to speak. Like no one is perfect. No one has it all figured out.
Yes.
It's like I constantly learn more about myself and life and everything else from people I'm surrounding myself with constantly.
Yeah, it's like evolving to Sangha is a community of people who practice together in support of each other. And they create, like, I want to say a hive mind, like a collective mind. And there's something energetically really exciting and expansive about that, because when I'm in community, like, even like if you have a relationship with someone, like an intimate relationship with someone, how you share thought.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's not just your ideas, it's their ideas too. It's like you've got like this collective hive mind between the two of you. So that's a really cool experience. And that's exactly right. Say Thich Nhat Hanh's quote again.
The guru of the future is the Sangha.
Yeah, that'll be our teacher, our guide of the future is
The group.
a collective supportive group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to ground it for people in almost like a science-based way, going back to the vagus nerve, there's the dorsal vagus nerve and the ventral. The ventral is what helps us connect socially.
Okay, so if you're not on YouTube, he's gesturing. The ventral is the front of your body, the dorsal is the back of your body.
Correct. The dorsal triggers the freeze response in the system, right? It's actually the earliest kind of develop and evolve. So that's like the freeze response. It's like, deer in the headlights kind of thing. And the ventral part of the vagus nerve is really what governs my ability to connect, to feel love and empathy and all those things. But it's also when we're socially connected and feeling socially connected, we feel neurologically safe. And it's only when we feel neurologically safe that we're able to then heal. The body can't heal otherwise, unless it's feeling neurologically safe. And so that's why I love doing group work. I love working with groups and groups of people. And obviously, like, sometimes you have to work with people one-on-one because there's very specific individual things that you need to address. But I love the community, and I love creating more community, because it's when we realize how not alone we are, and I know, like, this has been a problem for a very long time now. COVID only made it worse, but like loneliness, or the feeling of feeling lonely, because we can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. And we can also be not surrounded by people and not.
Yeah, and that lack of connection
Yeah.
is really what you're seeing in society. Like the fact that we have a spiritual crisis of disconnection is what makes people hate. What would you call it? Like assign blame in the culture to a certain group. To
criticize, judge, blame.
Yeah.
And
demonize other people. Like, that's because we don't feel connected.
We don't feel connected.
We don't have that sense of community safety.
Going back to what you said at the very beginning too, it starts with us.
Yeah.
And so we need to first feel connected to ourselves.
Yeah.
If we're able to then connect with someone else authentically, genuinely. Yeah. Right? Because I can connect with a lot of people but not be who I truly am. And so am I really connected then?
That's a shadow manipulative expression. Yeah.
And so we have to first be truly connected to ourselves. We have to be able to feel connected to others, and ultimately, if we are judging and criticizing and doing all those things, it's only because it's still present inside of us. Only.
Yeah. Because we don't feel connected to ourselves. We've embraced our shadow.
I'm judging this guy. I'm criticizing this person. I'm still developing and noticing, let's say, negative self-talk and all those different things. So that's still present inside of me because I haven't done that work. Right? Yeah. Like, I'm going to project that outward too, and not be able to have compassion or patience for another human being. Yeah, it's when they say hurt people. Yeah, it does come from a deep hurt. It's definitely a crisis in the culture. It is. Yeah. And so we definitely have some communities around here for you. Sure do. That are welcoming and safe. So Tom is going to be Sunday at the Light at 5 p.m. at the Somatic Breathwork group experience. And that will be happening in the energy enhancement system, which is it's a technology that creates an energetic field or environment that is of complete harmony and of an elevated frequency. And it's not gravity, but it's similar in the idea of gravity, in that gravity holds everyone on the planet. It's like an energetic force that acts unilaterally without prejudice to everyone. The EE system has a high frequency scalar wave biophoton color therapy field that is in the room that
your body will want to entrain with. So it will bring the frequency up of your body. It is relaxing to your nervous system, so it supports this kind of work. It is a very positive field, so it allows you to be held in a good energetic cradle container. Exactly. Cradle is a good word. Yeah. Okay. So it's like the best place and time to do something like this. So it takes the experience of the somatic breath work and puts you just in a really good container or field for that to happen. So that's 5 o'clock on Sunday the 16th. Here at Studio 108, Tom is going to do a workshop about breath work. It's not until April 26th. I would say don't wait, because you're going to have a lot of conversations and make a lot of decisions between now and the 26th. And why wouldn't you come and get yourself kind of cleared out and adjusted and recalibrated and in an optimal place before you go before you wait until April. But that will be a little more informative. That will be here at the studio. You'll have a lot of time to ask questions.
There's going to be plenty of live demo and also plenty of take-home practice.
Yeah.
So that you get to start applying in your day-to-day, 3, 5, 10 minutes a day to start like really restoring, more balance and functionality into your breathing, your nervous system, and all those things.
Yeah. I mean, health means something a lot different than it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Just being healthy is a whole different thing. And so these practices are filling in gaps and taking us further along our path of wellness in ways that just weren't available 15, 10, 5 years ago. Yeah. And here we are.
And I want to give you a chance to mention what you were saying at the beginning before we started this conversation about how science is also actually a process of evolution.
Yes.
Progression.
Yes.
And too often, like, we just rely on very outdated information, knowledge, things that are decades old.
Yes.
And the EE system, for example, is a new technology, although not so new either, because the one who designed it was designing it back in the 90s, I believe.
Exactly. It's over 20 years old, 30 years old, but in terms of its development, but it's just newly available to the public. And one of the things that's challenging for me, a couple days ago, a neighbor came over to borrow this fan thing and said to me, Tracy, every time I see you out, you look so happy and you always look great. And I swear you look better than you've ever looked. And I'm like, EE system, and it's open to the public. You can come in, your first visit's free. And he's like, and it just like flies right over it. He can't even answer to it because the calcification of the belief system is just there. And, we want to be constantly evolving with the times. Like, I don't want to be that kind of person who isn't open to new ideas. Yeah. I mean, around here, the staff will tell me sometimes I have to warm up to things before I'm on board with new ideas. But it's like we want to keep, we just want to keep current. And when new and exciting things are available, we want to make sure that we don't say, that's not science. We want to investigate it and have our own experience, because through your own personal felt experience, it might be very scientifically helpful and valid for you. Yeah.
And this is true in science, this is true in academia, it's true even in religion and spirituality.
Yeah.
So
we have to update the operating systems. We can't wait 30 years to bring new information into our experiences. It's just, we miss out on too much.
We do. So the importance of staying flexible, staying both strong, grounded, structured, and also open, flexible, ready to
pliable, willing,
ready to evolve, ready to again change, because that is the nature of life, is change.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just don't want to be an old crotchety person. So we're just gonna keep practicing. Tom, thank you so much for taking time with me.
I appreciate you taking time.
I know, it's good stuff. We hashed it over.
Sure did.
Yeah. All right, you guys, comment or something. Tom Jasinski is at the light. He's here at the studio. I'll put the website links below so that you can find access to the events that we're talking about. And you'll also see beneath Tom's website, if you'd like some personal time to work on things individually with him, he does that for sure. Awesome.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for following.
Yeah.
Namaste, y'all.
Have a great day, guys.